What's up, everybody? Mike?
No.
I was going to stop there. Thanks for listening, everybody. And then move right on. It was too scary. Right. It was too close to home for you. You're like, you just got a flashback. No.
Yeah, it was too close. It was very, very too close.
Well, I am stoked to get into tonight's topic, man. This is a personal hero of mine to some degree.
A personal hero?
Yes.
Interesting. I'm curious about what aspect of him is you find heroic.
Maybe heroic is the bad word to describe.
It's the fact that he abandoned God for sex, isn't it?
I could relate. No,
it's like, you know what, God? I know you're all powerful and you're the creator of heaven and earth, but this is some really sweet so sorry, buddy. I'm going to have to go with this chick over here. She's really hot.
She says, crush the grasshoppers. I got to crush the grasshoppers.
You're kind of uptight. We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
I definitely always found him fascinating as being like one of the few who've spoken to God and was actually given an ability by God.
Yeah. Good for him.
That, and as we will get into, he was the goddamn Macho Man Randy Savage of Demon and Wranglers.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna whoop you and then put you to work building my temple.
Yeah, that's just what he did.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, so I guess we should, for people that are like, what are you fucking guys talking about? Who's Solomon?
I haven't bought his album yet.
Yeah. Solomon was... he was a king of Jerusalem from 970 to 931 BC. So he had a reign of a little over 40 years. He was talked about in the Old Testament. He was referenced by Jesus in the New Testament. And he's seen as a prophet both in Judaism and in Islam. And so there's a lot of things that are attributed to him as well that have come through in the centuries after his alleged reign. But as far as most of his historical information we have on him comes from religious texts. So whether he existed or not is open for debate. I would say there's probably as much evidence that he was real as there is to suggest that Jesus was real.
Yeah. Does the fact that Solomon appears in the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, the Quran, and the Hadiths? I don't know if that's
Hadiths. They're
Arabic,
Islamic holy texts.
Yeah, I mean he's everywhere.
Yeah, but it's because all those religions spawn from the same source. They're all the New Testament is the first holy book for all those religions. So the fact that he's mentioned in the New Testament, which came later, and the Quran, which came even later still, I don't think lends any additional credence to whether or not he was real, because the Quran also mentions Jesus, but there's a lot of contemporary historical texts that detail a lot of the things going on throughout the Roman Empire during that period, and also within the area that Jesus was thought to have existed. And there's no mention of this Jesus guy, but there's several characters that kind of meet similar character aspects or character traits. And I think maybe it was an amalgamation of a character, kind of like a Hercules type character.
Yes, because he does have so many names. He's called by so many different names. And
yeah,
again, these are different languages that are referencing this one dude, but their names are so different. It's not like Mike and Michael and Mitchell. It's like Dave, Steve.
There's Solomon, Jedediah, Suleiman, So there's a few different names. I think Shlomo is one of them as well. That's my favorite, Shlomo.
It's Shlomo. Yep, Shlomo is it. And Jedediah.
Jedediah as well, yeah. But that's where Jedediah spawns from Jedediah.
This is King David's son, is to help reference whoever's.
So, and if you're like, who the fuck is King David? It's you got to be familiar with the story of David and Goliath. That was David's adventure when he was a little kid, and then David grew up and became king of Jerusalem.
Yes, because he was God's favorite.
Yeah, but then David did fall out of favor with God, though. And according to some mystic Jewish texts, David procreated with the queen of demons. And David is actually the father of the demon Asmodeus.
Ooh.
But yeah, he had other children. Solomon was the youngest son, and he had I think 3 half brothers. And then David was getting a little randy and started hitting up this married broad, and he's like, "Hey, married broad, you kind of fine." And most people would probably recognize the name, but her name was Bathsheba.
And he watched her take a bath, right? He was watching her bathe, and he was like, "Ooh."
Yeah. He was having an affair with her while she was married to this guy named Uriah, and he ordered this battle to take place, and he knew that Uriah was going to be involved in the battle. So he had this battle plan drawn up, and according to his plan, Uriah was killed during this battle. Now, David had already gotten her pregnant when before Uriah had gone into battle.
Ooh, naughty
so as
David.
punishment, God basically cursed the first son. So the first son died, and then David was able to produce another son with Bathsheba, and that was Solomon. And even though Solomon had older siblings, Solomon was basically the covenant between God and David, to show that God had forgiven David for committing adultery. And as a result, Solomon was to be the one to inherit the kingdom once David died. So the whole thing surrounding Solomon's birth is kind of magical in and of itself. You know, he was the covenant between God and David to show that David was still his God's little buddy, and you know, they had a little disagreement, but Solomon's here to show that their bond is still strong. And so Solomon went on to rule the kingdom. And one of the things that he's most famous for is God appeared to him in a dream, and he told Solomon because of his sacrifice, he would grant him anything that he wanted. And rather than asking for riches or hot chicks or fancy cars, he asked for wisdom. And so God, pleased with this request, was told him that he would grant him his wisdom because he didn't ask for anything that would lead to greed, like great riches or power, like killing off his enemies or giving him the throne of neighboring kingdoms or anything like that. So he was given this vast wisdom that, and there's the famous story kind of detailing his wisdom of the 2 women who were arguing over who was the real mother of the baby.
That blew my mind when I read that as a kid. I love that story.
Yeah. If you haven't heard it, there's a story of 2 women that came to Solomon, and they were both arguing that this baby was theirs. So they bring it up to Solomon in order to judge who the true mother is. So he comes up with an idea how to really prove that which one is the mother. And he says, you know what, we're gonna take this baby, we're gonna cut it in half, You each get to keep a half. One woman was cool with that. She's like, yeah, that sounds fair. The other one was like, fuck that. You can have the whole baby. We're not going to cut it in half. So Solomon, upon seeing what happened, realizes that the one that renounced her claim to the half of the baby should be the true mother, because she would rather see the child live and go be with another mother than to see the child get killed. So Solomon ruled before the court that the woman who gave up her baby to save its life would be the true mother, and she would be able to keep the entire baby rather than cutting it in half.
Instead of a portioned one.
Yeah, you will not have a portion of a child, you will have a full child. Yeah, but he's
The retelling that I heard is that the one woman wasn't cool with it. She cried out no. And the other woman said, no, wait, just stop and give it to her. Which made it a little bit more impressive as, of course the woman's going to cry out not to kill her child if it's supposedly her child. But the lady was like, no. She can have it then. And I always love that story. One of the things I've always found admirable about Solomon was that from the story of how he got his wisdom is when God offered him anything. He specifically didn't ask for wisdom. He asked to be able to rule his people fairly and to be the best ruler he could be when he became head of the kingdom. And by that, God gave him his wisdom. To achieve that, he needed his wisdom. And with that wisdom, he was able to acquire all the gold he was famous for having. They said by the time he died, he had more pieces of gold than there were grains of sand on the earth.
Yeah, he was said to have brought in a lot of money during his time because of he was able to set up a lot of trading posts throughout his kingdom, and it brought a lot of money in. I can't remember the exact amount. They 666 cubits of gold per year or something from his kingdom.
Nice. Solomon was Balaman.
Yeah, big baller. Solomon not only was a wise and just ruler, he was also a big-time man whore. Solomon had 700 wives and 300 concubines, and a lot of them were said to be foreign princesses, and one of them was the Pharaoh's daughter.
Yeah, that was his thing. He was like, since I'm here, how many kids you got?
Yeah. So since I visited, do you have any daughters you would like me to marry to add to my collection of women, apparently? But Solomon was famous for constructing the first temple of Jerusalem. And this temple was supposed to be the place where they would store the Ark of the Covenant. And it was also going to be a permanent home for the God Yahweh on earth. So while this temple was being constructed, Yahweh was planning on moving to earth. And he's like, you know what? Heaven's cool and all, but that temple looks really fucking sweet. And after he constructed the temple, he went on to build a lot of other buildings throughout Jerusalem. And a lot of the mythology surrounding him kind of goes along with the construction of this temple, because it's a place where you're building for your God to live on earth. So, it's got to be a little bit on the upscale side of things. You know what I'm saying?
It's got to have more than 2 toilets.
Yeah. What we get from the biblical sources, it talks about him building the temple and how amazing this temple was. But there was a book that came out called The Testament of Solomon. And this book, it's argued among scholars when it was actually written, and we don't know who even really wrote it. It 100% was not Solomon that wrote this testament. It was first seen sometime between the 1st century AD and the Middle Ages. They haven't been able to really lock it down. There are the first stories of Solomon imprisoning demons came in the 1st century. What we have today, the translation of the Testament of Solomon, it's thought to be kind of an amalgamation of a few different works, but it basically details the story of Solomon and how he came to trick all of the demons, basically.
All of them.
And the reason it all started was because one of his workers, one of the workers that were working on the temple, had a son who would help out. He was a young boy, so he was doing, he's not able to do much. It's not like he's swinging a hammer around or anything, but he's working every day, and as a result, Solomon decided that he would give him double pay and double rations for dinner. But whenever he would see the boy would look more and more unhealthy. So one day he asks the boy, what's going on? I give you double the pay of all my other workers, and I give you double the food. Why do you look like you're wasting away? So the boy tells him about this demon who has been basically being the fucking high school bully after work, and he steals half of the kid's pay, and then every night he sucks on the kid's right thumb, and by sucking on his thumb, he's drawing the kid's energy out of him like a vampire.
Yeah, he almost words it in the way of this demon takes complete control of him. Almost like when he sucks my thumb, he's able to possess me and I don't eat.
Yeah. So he gives all his energy to this demon. Demon beats him up for his lunch money. And poor kid is still having to work every single day, even though this demon's sucking on him every single night. So he tells Solomon all this, and Solomon is clearly distraught because this kid's his little buddy. He likes this kid. They're pals. He wants to see the kid do well. So he goes to the temple and he prays to God. And the archangel Michael shows up, and he gives Solomon an iron ring with this magical seal on it. Now, a lot of the translations refer to it as being the Star of David, which is a triangle facing downward and an interlocking triangle facing upward. So 6-pointed star. But that symbol didn't appear in Judaism until much later. I think it was another 1,000 years after this was purported to have happened. So they're thinking, the scholars are thinking that this was likely a pentagram. And we all know, well, I shouldn't say we all know, but it's widely known that the pentagram, not the upside down devil star, but the actual pentagram, a 5-pointed star, is a symbol of protection. And especially when dealing with evil spirits or demons, you can create a circle of protection by drawing a pentagram in a circle on the floor and getting in it. And then, if you're doing magic or whatever, you can't be touched by the demons. But anyway, the symbol on the ring is supposed to be the symbol of God. It was later known as the Seal of Solomon. But
I read somewhere that the seal was a stone. The actual image on the ring was that of a rock. Did you hear that at all?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, I haven't heard that at all.
I'll send you the version of the Testament of Solomon that I read, and actually I found a really good reading of it on YouTube. And they also say that it's a stone, and it's the crest of God. It's the big time stuff.
Nice. The one that I read is a translation by F.C. Conybeare.
Conybeare?
Conybeare. Yeah. Anyway, the ring, regardless of what the seal looked like, it was magical, and it could control demons. So Solomon, after being told how to use the ring, lets this little kid borrow his ring. And he told him to take the ring, and when you see the demon, throw the ring at the demon. That's going to mark him with the seal of God and put him under control. So the kid does it. He throws the ring at him and says, "You need to go talk to Solomon because you're in trouble." And the demon's like, "Oh, shit. He threw the ring at me. Now I've got to go see Solomon." And he probably feels like a little kid being called to the principal's office. Like, "Oh, man, gotta go see Solomon."
This is a question I had for you, is because this demon, when he hears that it's Solomon, like in the writings it says he throws the ring at the demon's chest and says, "Solomon summons you." And instantly, this demon starts freaking out and says, "I'll give you fucking everything in the goddamn world. Just don't make me go to Solomon." Why do you think he was automatically so scared of Solomon?
I don't know. There's nothing to really indicate why he would be, other than maybe that he's the king. And he's like, "Oh, shit, the king." Or maybe it was just by being marked by that ring and being told that it was Solomon's ring. He's must be thinking like, "Oh, shit, this guy's way more powerful than your average human."
Yeah, this is.
Or maybe he knew about his relationship with God.
Mm-hmm.
There could be a number of reasons why. But no matter what, he was scared. And he's like, "I don't want to fuck with that." And even when the kid runs into Solomon's palace, he's like, "Solomon, I got the demon here. He's waiting outside. And he's trying to bribe me with all this shit." And Solomon walks out and the demon still is like, "Hey, dude, I'll give you like millions of dollars. All of the dollars. Just let me go." And Solomon's like, "You know what? Fuck your dollars. I'm goddamn Solomon. Me and God were like this. He gave me this ring, controlled demons. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to let you take this ring, demon," who first, I should mention, when Solomon encounters this demon, he forces the demon to tell him his name. And in a lot of, we've talked about this before when dealing with magic or demons, the name is very powerful. Having a demon's true name gives you power over that being. So he first compels the name out of the demon, and then he finds out what angel the way it's worded is what angel frustrates you. So I'm assuming it's like whatever angel that particular demon has beef with.
Yeah, exactly. Or there's a few that the cases that they've been bound or sealed or imprisoned by the demons mentioned before, or by the demon that they mention.
Yeah. That's the way that I pictured it was when the demons were falling to earth from heaven. Like the ones that they've got beef with were the ones that they were like buddies with, and then they took different sides. Like, you know what? Fuck that guy.
Yeah.
We were buddies. And he turned his back on me, and I'm here and he's there. Fuck that guy.
Yeah, right.
At least that's how I pictured it in my head. It gives it a little comical twist. But anyway.
He also asked a few of them what sign they were, like under the zodiac.
Yeah. A lot of them were tied to the zodiac. And there's various things, demons that tie into different aspects of mythology. Some tie in with Greek mythology, like there's one that kind of resembles Medusa. They refer to a lot of the Greek names for constellations, and there's references to Jewish tradition and mythology, and then there's what's supposed to be like Christian prophecy, which I'll get to that down the road. But
as well, these demons were from all places, right? There was demons that were from Arabic writings, so not also these writings include like the different prophecies and all the stuff you're talking about, but these demons themselves are from all different cultures, which I found very interesting.
Yeah. So when you look at the Bible, it all takes place in this one small area of the world, centering in Jerusalem, but kind of going out over Jordan and Syria, Babylon, which would be Iraq now, Egypt. But it's this little corner of the world that everything takes place in. So you've got a lot of different traditional legends and mythology in the area. So some of these demons were jinn, or there's even when he summons demons later on, they even reference that that they're known as gods in other lands. So referencing the fact that other cultures that are monotheistic, their gods are actually demons. So in a way, it's being used as kind of like a propaganda, like, hey, our religion has the real God. All your religions, your gods are fucking demons that Solomon can control now. So who's the real power?
Yeah. And that was interesting about some of these demons. I mean, he asked, like you said, what their name was, what angel they had beef with, and then asked them what their job was and what their results, what they could do. I mean, some of them were rude to Solomon. Some of them didn't give a shit if he had that ring.
There was one, I don't remember its name off the top of my head, but it's very similar to Lilith in Jewish tradition. But it's also going even further back. If you remember when we were talking about Pazuzu a few episodes ago, and I was talking about his wife, and how his wife, out of jealousy, would kill babies inside the mother's womb. And there's also a jinn in Arabic mythology that has this same function, that will kill babies in their mother's womb or try to steal their breath as they're being born. And this demon is one of the ones that he calls forth and binds her.
She was a creepy one, dude, the way she told her story. And we got to mention that there's, in the beginning, when some of these demons, when he asked them, some of them, like I said, are rude, and they'll be like, who the fuck are you? And some of them will say, my name's this. Holy shit, why am I saying this to you? And he'll say, what's the angel that frustrates you? And he'll be like, Ezekiel. Fuck, why did I just say that? And there's this frustration. It's hilarious to listen to.
I should mention, though, because we're talking about all these demons he summoned, but after the first demon, Orneus, gets summoned, he tells him to bring him another demon. So Orneus goes right to the big guy, goes to Beelzebul, who later became Beelzebub. He goes to Beelzebul, who's the prince of demons, like the oldest demon that there is. He's basically in this story, he's basically Lucifer. He says that he was the highest ranking angel in heaven, and he was cast down, and now he's the prince of demons.
Yeah, he said he was Solomon's the last angel that was cast down. He was the last remaining angel.
The big bad.
Yeah.
The final boss. But Solomon is able to control him, so through him, he's able to get all these other demons. And so some of them even curse the original demon for having called Beelzebul to Solomon, because then Solomon bound him, which then was able to get him access to all these other demons. But I love that the way the story is told, it just seems like Solomon's sitting there one after the other, just calling these demons to him. And then he's like, you know what? I bind you, go cut marble for me. And that's like, after he would get all this information from him, some of them he would torment a bit before he basically fucking tortured some of them to get so that they would give up their names. But then he would, most of them he just put to work. He's like, you know what? You can help lift bricks. You know what? You can cut marble. He made a ton of them cut marble. That must be tough work. He's like, you know what? Fuck that. Go cut some marble. Some of them, one of them, I like, he was pretty badass. It might have been Asmodeus. I can't remember, but he gets called up, and he decides to burn all the logs that were cut to build the temple before he will give up any of his information. He's like, fuck you, Solomon. And he just burns all of the wood that all the workers had just cut. And then finally Solomon gets all the information out of him, and he's like, now go cut some marble for me.
It's just hilarious.
Yeah. But he according to the Testament of Solomon, the demons were responsible for building the first temple of Jerusalem. And some of them he bound and kept captive in jars within the temple. There was one of them that he bound and attached to the front of the temple. I think that was the creepy one that killed babies.
Yeah, she was so rough, and her description, like I was talking about just a little bit ago, was so, it's chilling to hear. She's like,
yeah,
she's saying shit to the effect of like, I kill babies. That's what I do. I choked them to death with my hands, and I can't go to sleep until I kill a baby. So if I can't find a fucking baby to kill where I'm at, I'll go travel somewhere else until I
somewhere
can
else
find
to
a fucking
kill
baby.
it.
Yeah. And he was. It says he was shocked by this. He was like, you know what? I'm going to put you in front of the temple so all the children that walk by can see you and know you, just in case you ever escape.
Yeah.
What about the one with no head, dude? He was my favorite. That is weird.
Yeah, and there was the one with no head that was able to talk and hear, and I love that Solomon questioned him about that. How is it that you can talk when you have no head?
Well, the response is great. He says, "Through my feelings."
Yeah, yeah. And then there's the woman who had no limbs, but it wasn't that she didn't have limbs. It's just that her limbs were invisible.
Yeah. What about that one where its body was curled backwards like a snail, but its head was long and stuck out?
Yeah. Some of the descriptions, I think that there were 72 demons in all, if I remember correctly. But there were a couple of them that were in groups, and then there was one large group of 36 that appeared to him. And he was able to bind. He talks to them all individually, even though they all showed up together, and then he binds them all.
What did you think about the group of 38? How they say their name, what angel frustrates them. A couple say what sign they work under, because I guess that's where they're getting their powers from certain stars, they say. And then they say how to get rid of them.
Yeah. But did you notice how some of them are like, they're responsible for like really common or mundane ailments? Like some of them, one of them had his job is to cause people to have a sore throat.
Yeah, and there's ones that affected the upper bowel and then the lower bowel.
Yeah.
Dude, what about that one that was like a dragon that said that it would go hump chicks and knock them up, but after a while, instead of giving birth, they just beef it?
Yep.
God damn, and that would create strife.
But it had the hands of a human.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah. So there were 72 demons in all. He bound them all, and in some way they either built or made up a part of the first temple of Jerusalem. So that's the story of how he built the temple. But Solomon fell out of favor with God.
I got to admit that when I was young and I read that this was how Solomon's story ended, I was supremely disappointed. Being somebody I admired, I mean, him being somebody who, like I said, spoke to God, acquired the wisdom of God, was able to rule his people fairly, and he was loved and being so wise, and all his quotes and stories that were so fantastic. To hear that this is how he goes down was such a bummer. This is why, I mean, like I said, maybe hero is not the right word. He didn't do anything. I mean, this is very unheroic, but man, it's the same old thing.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, Solomon was a bit of a man whore. He had 700 wives, 300 concubines. He basically collected princesses from neighboring kingdoms and married them. But the end of the Testament of Solomon, it kind of has an afterword to it, and he describes that he fell in love with a foreign woman, and
another princess, right? He marched on somebody in Arabia, and they had a great looking daughter.
Yeah. Now the story that's told at the end of the Testament is a little bit different than what was told in the scriptures, but the end result is the same. But at the end of the Testament, he says that he fell in love with a foreign woman, and he agreed to worship the god Moloch. in exchange for sex.
That's the motherfucker in the San Francisco woods that they burn shit for.
Yeah, the giant owl. But Moloch was that's I'm going to get into Moloch in a future episode about human sacrifice, because some of this shit to do with Moloch was fucking terrifying.
Nice.
Yeah, but Moloch demanded sacrifice, basically, and Solomon agreed to make a sacrifice, but his first sacrifice, he thinks it won't be a meaningful sacrifice. So he sacrificed 5 locusts by crushing them in his hand. But even though it was a small sacrifice, he still made a sacrifice in another god's name. So the Spirit of God left from him. And according to the Testament, he became foolish, and his name was no longer respected among humans or demons. And basically, the ending of this testament warns the readers to not abandon their beliefs and to worship God and not be tempted by sex, basically.
See, the one I read is a little bit more poetic. He said that when he said he fell violently in love with this girl, and he went to their priest and said, I want to take her as one of my wives. And they're like, yeah, sure. You just need to worship our gods, Moloch in particular. And he was pissed. He's like, fuck you. And he knew that Moloch was a demon, and it's an ancient Sumerian demon. And he knew that. Yep. And he was like, no, I'm not worshiping that demon. So they were like, dude, we need to get this Solomon dude on our fucking camp. So they finally sent the girl he was in love with. And she was like, look, it could be something small, like kill these bugs, kill these locusts. And he's like, fine, I'll do that. He's like, well, I got to reach around. She's like, yeah, you got it. He's like, okay, I'll kill him. So he kills the locust. And like he said, he writes that he instantly felt God leave his body. And I love the way they worded it at the end. He's talking about like, hey, afterward, like, I'm Solomon. I did all these things. I was a great ruler. And this writing's about me fucking beating the shit out of demons and turning them into slaves to build God's temple. And then about my demise. And he said, please remember the latter. The later part is what's more important. And it was, I don't know, more powerful that way. But it's just the translation that I read, I found that more interesting. Just like at the end, he's like, yeah, man, I was fucking king fuck of shit mountain, and I was able to beat the shit out of demons, and I had all the money in the world, but man, did I blow it for a piece of cotton.
Piece of cotton. Now, according to the scriptures, though, because Solomon was getting so many women from all over the other kingdoms, that he permitted these women to bring their gods with them. He didn't make them convert to worship his God. So he allowed them to bring them in, and he started to build temples to these gods as well for his wives. And so he built a temple to Astaroth. He built a temple to Moloch and to Marduk, and like all these ancient gods. And then he met the Queen of Sheba, which is another famous name. But this is the one that he fell madly in love with, and whatever she wanted, he would give to her. And there's a passage in Kings 1 that said Solomon gave her all her desire whatsoever she asked, and she left satisfied. So he fell in love with her. They ended up getting married, and by all accounts, I say by all accounts, but this was from scripture, but when he started to give in to everything the Queen of Sheba wanted, he started to worship the other gods and started to worship these foreign gods. And that's when God became angry with him. And he said because of his love for David, he was not going to take his punishment out on Solomon, but he would take this out on Solomon's son. So after Solomon died, God proclaimed that the kingdom would be split. And there's 12 tribes of Jerusalem, and 10 of the 12 tribes split, and two of the tribes stuck with Solomon's son, and it later became the kingdom of Judah. That's what Solomon's son oversaw, was the kingdom of Judah, which only had two of the tribes of Israel.
And that was pretty much like north and south, from what I understand, right?
Yeah. Yep. So the Solomon is said to be the last king of the United Kingdom of Israel. But after he died, there was the kingdom of Israel, which was the 10 tribes to the north, and then the kingdom of Judah, which was the 2 tribes to the south. And from that point on, they had never been reunited.
Super blew it, Solomon. God.
Yeah. But so I mentioned earlier that the temple was supposed to be built to house the Ark of the Covenant and God. I can't remember if we did an episode on the Ark of the Covenant or if it was the Holy Grail.
The Covenant. We did the Ark of the Covenant.
It was a covenant. Okay. So the Ark of the Covenant, there's lots of different places that say they have it. There was a practicing Jew that showed up to visit Solomon named Menelik, and he had been given a replica of the Ark of the Covenant by King Solomon. And the original was taken by a priest and ended up in Ethiopia. So there's a specific church in Ethiopia that is, they say that they still have the Ark of the Covenant, but no one's allowed to see it. So anyone that goes to visit this church, they're not allowed in. But this was said to have happened its journey started during the reign of Solomon, when a priest was charged with caring for the actual Ark of the Covenant. And through his lineage, I mean, priests aren't, well, then again, this was before Christianity, so maybe priests were able to get married at this point, but through this priest's lineage, the duty to guard the Ark passed down, and it moved along and ended up being a part of what it offered legitimacy to the later Ethiopian monarchy while they had it there. And that's so for a while that was the king of Ethiopia would be the one that would have the Ark of the Covenant. And now it's at this church in Ethiopia that no one's allowed to see.
That's funny.
But it allegedly still asks there.
Yeah.
But even if you petition the government to see it, the government will deny all requests.
Yeah, it's funny that you say it. There's a couple of guys that own a shop near me, and they're Ethiopian guys. And I may have mentioned it when we covered the Ark, but when I was going to cover it, I was reading about it. Like you said, there's tons of places that claim they have it or know what happened to it. So I asked them, because I read something that it was in Ethiopia. I said, hey guys, I'm studying the Ark of the Covenant. And they both smiled. And I said, where's it at? And they both laughed. And they said, we have it.
Where's it at? Give me the information I need to know.
I was just joking with them. They were, friends of mine, nice guys. And they knew what I was talking about. And they're like, oh yeah, we have it. They says it's surrounded by guards, armed guards to this day. That church is anyway.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. And to think, it's not that he just lost favor with God and lost everything and went mad. I mean, what he worked on and was most proud of was destroyed. It was more of like he was erased from history. And we know from
he definitely wasn't erased from history.
Or they're trying to, like the moral of the story.
We're talking about him right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, just like the moral of the story was like he didn't just die alone and forsaken. I mean, even his greatest work was destroyed.
Yeah. That's the thing with the temple. We don't even know if it exists, if it ever really existed, if it ever was really destroyed. A lot of people seem to think that it might be under the Dome of the Rock, but because it's a very it's a sacred Islamic site,
guarded area, and
that you can't excavate underneath this mosque. It's a holy site. That's sacrilege. So even though it might be under there and it might be the greatest discovery of our time, we can't get to it because of, it would disrespect another culture and disrespect another religion. And especially when you think about the region that it's in, doing that sort of thing right there would create a great deal of hostility between two factions that are already very hostile against each other. So I think it's going to be one of those mysteries. I don't think it's going to be one that we will ever discover in our lifetime. I think that would be something that would be discovered once modern man is once our time is over, once our empire ends, and some future generation of whatever future human is, they're going through the rubble of our past, and they're like, hey, there was a holy site here, and oh my God, underneath that there's something even more ancient, and they'll have no idea what it is because all of our books will have been destroyed at that point,
or our computers got viruses.
Yeah, they won't have compatible USB ports anymore.
They're like, oh well,
what's this hunk of plastic? Who cares?
This place looks older than the others. Build on top of it. Yeah, definitely it'll take some type of situation to where Earth itself's being excavated.
Yeah. So getting back to the Testament of Solomon, this story has been the basis of a lot of modern, well, I shouldn't even say modern magic, but it's been the basis for a lot of magic books.
I'm glad you say that, because I have a question before you get into that for you about this stuff, because after rereading that, I read it when I was a little kid, hadn't read it since, and to reread it was just fascinating, and to listen to it a few times. This reads like a fucking magic manual. I mean, why? I mean, if this wasn't written by Solomon, maybe it was put together by a collection of his fucking diary. Who knows? But let's say he wrote this. I want to know why this was written, and why, if this is Solomon's testament, was the majority of it how to fight and get rid of demons. I mean, it's really a magic book.
I think it was to show the power of Solomon and really show how the mighty can fall if they turn their back on God. I think that was the whole purpose of it. I think the testament itself was probably written by a Christian sometime in the first millennia of Christianity. And the reason I say that is because there's a lot of references that if you were to look at the Testament of Solomon as actually being the Testament of Solomon, you would see some prophecy that indicate Jesus. So there's one demon that tells him that the only way that he can be freed from his binding is when the Son of God is born from a woman that's never been touched by a man. And then there's another prophecy about the demons becoming free once. I can't remember exactly how it's worded, but it referenced the crucifixion of Jesus.
Yeah.
They don't call him Jesus, though, but they reference the Son of Man being crucified on a hill.
Yeah, that's right.
And there was even a reference to Golgotha, which is the place of the skull where Jesus was crucified. So I think there were 3 references. There might have been a 4th one as well, but there were at least 3 references to Jesus, which is why I feel like the fact that this was found sometime after the 1st century would indicate that it was most likely written by a Christian. And there's some scholars that think maybe because there's references to Greek mythology that it may have been a Christian or a Greek person that was Christian that wrote this, but it could have just been a scholar because they had a lot of reference to Jewish mythology in there as well. So maybe it was just someone who really enjoyed learning about religions at the time and wanted, who was, had a agenda, and they also had a story to tell. So they kind of put everything together and created the Testament of Solomon. But the Testament of Solomon has inspired a lot of magic books. And there was the most famous are the Greater and Lesser Key of Solomon. The Lesser Key, there's a part of it that the most famous part is called the Goetia. And that was, I believe that was written in the Middle Ages, but it was referenced by Aleister Crowley and used by him as well. And what the Goetia does, it gives the rituals for summoning all 72 of these demons. And it tells you how to bind them. And the way that that these rituals are done, when you're binding these beings, you're binding them through threats and by asserting the authority of God over them. So you're trying to get them to do things for you, but you're doing it in a way where you're basically, if you fuck anything up, they're gonna want revenge on you because you're basically torturing them and forcing them into slavery. There's a book that I think I mentioned it in our episode on the Necronomicon, but it's called The Book of Smokeless Fire. And that book, it takes the same 72 demons, but it takes the more traditional Arabic approach, and they're all named for jinn. So that's 72 deadly jinn, and each jinn has the same powers and same responsibilities as these demons. But the rituals in this book teach you how to summon these jinn to work with you. So you're unleashing them basically for a purpose. And it's a purpose that's in line with the demon's desires. So say you wanted to get revenge on a pregnant woman, you would summon that jinn that would kill her baby. And because that's what it does, because it can't sleep otherwise, it's willing to work with you because you're providing it with an easy target. So this book kind of takes it from the other side, where instead of forcing things under the name of God and making them do what you want, you're working with them so that you can achieve mutual goals. It's like, hey, you need to kill babies to exist. I hate this lady. Let's work together and we can be dicks together. But there's so many different books on Solomon's magic, and a lot of them deal with summoning demons or forcing spirits under your control. But another aspect of Solomon's ring that doesn't get talked about a lot, but was he was able to talk to and control animals as well. So his ring would allow him to understand and communicate with animals, and then he could also command them to do his bidding.
And that was because of the ring?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that at all.
Yeah, that was part of the ring's power. So there's also stuff in these magic books about controlling animals or communicating with animals, but a lot of it has to do with demons and using demons to achieve various things. Like there's even rituals for how to summon a spirit to coerce somebody to fall in love with you. A lot of it's probably bullshit. But as we've talked about a lot on this show, a lot of the time it's the intent and the will you put into it. And if you're able to put enough things into it, you could create a tulpa, which, maybe that would be the demon, or you put enough. A lot of magic has to do with forcing your will on the universe. So you are able, through your own intent and force of will, are able to make the universe work in a way that would be favorable to you, that would allow you to achieve the goals that you're looking for. So I think maybe that's got a lot to do with this, and the fact that it's tied to well-known mythology or well-known characters kind of makes it feel more real. so it makes it more tangible. Like, these are things that I grew up hearing about. If you went to church or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and you would have, or if you went to temple or to the mosque, you would hear about Solomon, and you would hear about the various things he would do. So then you read this book that's telling you these are the things that Solomon did to summon these demons, and you can do that too. And you have to have strong faith in God. That's the thing with when you're using the Goetia. You have to have strong faith, otherwise the demon will be able to overpower you. So you have to believe that God will protect you.
Right. When you read about the magic of Solomon, all the stuff that he does with it, like I said, it feels like a magic book, but all the stuff about it, I mean, like, there are straight up magic books that Solomon has been attributed to writing and stuff that he did. I mean, it almost seems like he was messing with that stuff too much. I mean, with this Demon King, he was kicking it with him for a long time, and they were shooting the shit and basically hanging out. Do you think Solomon could have been, I don't know.
Maybe he was being duped and thinking that he was in control when really he was being manipulated. Because look at his downfall. Like that, if you're that tight with God, it doesn't seem like how could you have your faith shaken when you're literally getting emissaries from God giving you magical gifts?
Right.
And God has appeared to you. He's appeared to your father. Like, how do you be like, you know what? Nah, I'm gonna check out another God. And especially when your God, the God that's been helping you out all along, is supposed to be the one true God, and all these demons that you summoned admitted to you that they were looked at as gods in other kingdoms. But then you get a foreign bride that comes over and she's like, no. Worship my God. And this is a foreign God that you don't know, yet you know your God very well, and you're willing to just throw it all away. That to me sounds, and especially when he's well known for his wisdom, that to me sounds like maybe this princess was not really a princess. Maybe it was actually a demon in disguise that was introduced to Solomon to lead him down a path to his own destruction and the destruction of the kingdom of Israel.
I think you're definitely onto something there. I think that's fascinating that you mentioned that, because for me, when they go through this list of that group of 37 or 38 demons, and they're talking about all the ailments, and we talked about how some of them were simple and goofy, and one says that his job was to inflame the thyroid gland, and some were more traditional, I guess, to cause strife in a household and things like that. But after hearing about the ones that might make it so I can eat Taco Bell again, I was like, shit, I'm going to do some good old Solomon magic. But then my brain stopped me, and I said, reading this and having it feel like a book of magic and knowing what you're dealing with, who knows if these instructions to get rid of them isn't bullshit. I mean, even some of the instructions were weird. Get a tea leaf and write my name on it 7 times, each time deducting 1 letter. And Solomon even takes the care to write out how that's supposed to go to make sure you get it right. But what if that's a way for it to have its child attach itself to you, or have it attach? Maybe it's not a summoning spell or get like a protection spell, but an attachment type spell, because Solomon even mentions later on in the Testament that there was a point to where he was approached by an old man, and he looked like shit, and he was beat up, and Solomon's like, what's your problem? And he says, man, you got to help me out. I've got this kid. He's my only kid, and he beats the shit out of me and makes me feel like an asshole and embarrasses me in front of people. He's like, shit, man, go get this kid. I got to talk to this kid. And the old man brings his son, and Solomon goes, what's going on? He goes, look, I'm sorry, I'm an asshole. He's like, I didn't hit him with my hand. I guess that was like a death sentence. He's like, I'm a piece of shit, I'm sorry. And he goes, okay, well, I want you guys to basically go home and work on your relationship. And while he's talking to this son, he notices somebody in his court that's laughing. And he says he instantly recognizes it as one of these demons. And he immediately has the room cleared, and he has his guards bring the demon forward. And Solomon says, hey, remember this fucking ring? Why the fuck are you laughing at me? And he goes, I'm not laughing at you, man. I'm laughing at the old man, because he's coming to you with this, and you're actually helping him, and everything's going to be great. And he's like, his son's going to be dead in 3 days. And Solomon's like, that can't be true. He's like, yeah, it's going to happen. He goes, and your shit's going to be fucking gone in a season. He's like, you're not a super duper king. You're not like kings of old. You're not going to be here for 300 years. Neither is your fucking kingdom or your temple. So Solomon has his old man fetched with his son, and the old man shows up in funeral garbs and said, my son is now dead. So that sounds like an attachment. Maybe, I mean, if you had the wisdom of God, wouldn't you see a lot of this bad shit coming?
I mean, you'd think so. You know who else the Testament reminds me of? Abdul al-Hazred. Yeah. And how he thought that he knew all this stuff about the great old ones, and that he could give the ability to summon them and how to use them and get the powers you need. And then his life ended by being torn apart by invisible forces in the middle of a marketplace. Mm-hmm. I mean, granted, Solomon wasn't torn apart by an invisible force in a marketplace, but just the downfall, like you've got the hubris thinking you're the one in control, you're the one who's able to put all this wisdom out there, and in the end you basically fall to the powers that you were thinking you controlled.
Like you said, if you're fucking with these demons and you fuck something up, they're gonna fucking be pissed and they're gonna want revenge. And what if one of these demons escaped its bindings? What if somebody set one of these things that he punished and made work and bound or whatever, got free, and that explains his downfall. I mean, what if these demons said, what if there's an old fucking rule that says if you make a demon work, that automatically gives them 2 years of reign over you? Who knows? It just seems like a lot of trickery, especially when you're dealing with demons. After reading all this stuff, it definitely seems like he was tricked into something at some point, or maybe having all these false gods, for him were false gods like Mordok and Murloc and Betty, or whatever you want to call them, around and in his...
Hey, you say the name of Betty with respect, you son of a bitch.
What if them just being around was enough? What if that was some type of slow burn of them working on possessing him, and that's why he abandoned?
Well, I don't even think it was a issue of possessing. It sounds like the wives. The demons probably got to the wives, and the demons were very open that they were considered gods in other kingdoms, and he was allowing these women to bring their gods in. So if he was able to get a few of these demons to admit that they were gods, but then he was importing these gods or other gods, not the ones that he was calling in, but he was allowing his concubines to bring their gods over and would build temples for these gods. So if what we're to believe is that all other gods in other kingdoms are actually demons posing as gods, then he was importing demons into the kingdom of Israel and allowing houses to be built for them to be worshipped.
Holy shit.
And then ultimately he began to worship them as well, which led to his downfall.
Wow. That's it. We're going with that.
Yeah.
No matter what, no matter how cool your ring is, man, don't fuck with demons.
Yeah. Or chicks that want you to follow demons. Stay away from them too. Or if you were a girl, stay away from guys that want you to worship demons. They're probably even scarier than girls that want you to worship demons, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
Just basically, if you think somebody is sexy and you want to, hang out with them, and they're like, hey, we can chill, but you got to worship my demon god first. How about 9 times out of 10, you should avoid that situation at all costs.
Yeah, let's go one step further and say not come worship my demon, but come worship anything. So that includes like come to my church. Just be like, no, that's a private thing. You go do that. I'm
can come to my window, though.
One question I had for you that comes from reading the Testament of Solomon. One is that, what did you think about that Lilith-like spirit when she appeared, he asked who she was, and she was one of the ones that said, "Who the fuck are you?" And it says that he bowed a soldier to strike her, and she tripped out. She's like, "No, wait! I'm here to answer your questions. Why would you hit a spirit? Why would you? I mean, do you think that this ring was so powerful that it didn't just summon demons; it brought them to physical form?"
Yeah, I think that's what it was trying. Because there was one demon that was the wind, and he was able to capture the wind and force it to take demon form and talk to him. So maybe he was the one. Maybe he's just in his head thinking like really scary, creepy things, and that's what's manifesting when he summons these demons. Maybe they don't have a physical form, and he's just like, what would be really creepy? A dog with a giant head. That would be fucking creepy.
Well, that one with no head, like we're talking about, I mean, his appearance seemed to fit what his job description and purpose was. He said that he would travel the countryside and find men with heads. He said that he was constantly hungry, but he couldn't eat because he didn't have a head. So he would chop off dudes' heads with his hands as if they were a sword. So apparently he had the magic ability to swing his fingers at your head and cut your fucking head off. And he said the detail's great. He would put the severed head on his stump, but then his stump would swallow the head, and then he'd have no fucking head again.
And then it would, start all over again.
So, I mean, maybe that, to me, that's a little bit...
That sounds like a fucking Hellraiser thing, like that.
Cenobite.
Yeah, that could be something from a Hellraiser movie. That's so fucking creepy.
It is. And that leads me to another question I have for you. Some of these demons, and Solomon's calling them demons, these are the names of demons. We know these are the names of demons through other writings and stuff like that. But some of these things, what they call themselves, I kind of think could change the field of what demons are when we're talking about demonology, because there's a few of them. One in particular that said, I am a spirit that's been made into a body. And I think the headless dude was one of them that said that, because he didn't float around in a mist. He roamed the countryside. He was something.
So to me, that sounds like he was bound to a body.
Exactly.
Maybe as punishment.
Yeah, maybe as punishment. Exactly. He's something that's physical that's here. And there was another one that said he told Solomon he didn't have to fucking listen to him because he was born from a chick and a Nephilim. So now...
Yeah, and he took the form of a giant.
Yeah. So why are we calling it a demon if we know it's just a Nephilim and woman crossbreed, which in the Bible describes those were demons.
The fallen angels mated with human women and created the Nephilim. So if we're following Christian tradition, the fallen angels are what became the demons of hell. And if they were to have had sex with a woman and procreated, then that would make their offspring half demons.
Mm-hmm.
But they were called the Nephilim, but they were described as being giants, basically.
Yes, correct. But do you think that with that line of thinking in mind, that some of these one-off single-sighting cryptids could be a demon?
No, I do not. And the reason I say that is because I don't think that demons are real. I think this is all mythology. I've talked on this topic millions of times now on the show, but I think that all of these things are the same sort of thing. I think there's good and evil, or if you want to say higher and lower, and some feed off of humans in some way, and the others are there to help. And I think that's where the angels and demons come from. I don't think it's necessarily a good and evil thing. I think it's just their nature. Just like we kill things to make hamburgers, they need to attach themselves to a human host to gain sustenance. Right.
It's just their natural procedure according to whatever entity they are.
And I think it's through our human moral spectrum that we determine what is good and evil. But when you look at when you look at like an evil action, like if you were to describe somebody that killed a mother in front of her baby and then ate that mother and left the baby to die, you would say that was evil. Now, if we were to spin it and say that a hunter killed a deer in front of the baby deer and took that deer home to eat, is that evil at that point? From the deer's perspective, we committed fucking an atrocious act that could be nothing but evil. But to us, we're looking at it in terms of conservation and population control and feeding our families. So it's all in how you're framing things. Yeah,
most definitely. To the tribe that worships deers, that's also a atrocious act.
Yeah. You know, it's really all in the way that you're perceiving things. You know, the hunter that goes out there doesn't think that he's doing an evil act. He thinks that he is helping save the surviving deers by allowing by taking this one out and giving more food to the rest of the deer, while also getting, you know, months worth of food for himself and his family. So to him, he's doing a good deed. But when you look at it from the deer perspective, he's a fucking trespassing murderer. What the fuck are you doing in my woods? And why did you shoot my brother? It's bullshit.
Yeah, definitely. It's just like those videos where it shows like the mama animal killing the baby animal because it's useless or won't pull its weight. For us, that's horrible to see. But for them, you know.
For them, it's a matter of survival. You know, you're slowing me down. I got to let you go, man.
And I got to do that by eating your face.
I can stay here with you and make sure you survive and we both die. Or I can tell you to fuck off and go take care of matters myself.
Yeah. I guess even cats will do that.
Yeah, a lot of animals will do that.
Good
and
Lord.
Even like siblings will do that.
Right.
You know, there's some animals where there's a species of shark where the inside the shark mom's womb, the baby sharks fight amongst each other and eat each other. So it's survival of the fittest inside the womb. Before they even get out into the world, they're murdering their brothers and sisters so that they have a better chance of survival.
Wow. Told you, sharks are evil.
No, sharks are fucking awesome.
They are. I don't touch them, though. Enjoy your stickers, you jerks.
Mateo fuck sharks, never forget.
Thank you for listening to the Whatcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, iTunes, and YouTube. Enjoy the podcast. Get yourself a Whatcast t-shirt or a sticker pack. Who was that dude on that one episode? Try the links in Homie's page. All this and more can be found at www.thewhatcasters.com. Thanks again for listening and have a great week.